My dear child. There is someone on this earth who carries your name in the quiet corners of their heart. Not as a passing thought. Not as a fleeting memory. But as a presence so constant that even ordinary moments seem to whisper reminders of you. And tonight, a truth long hidden beneath the surface is beginning to rise. A truth that explains why this person cannot simply move on, why your energy lingers in their mind long after conversations end. Why something about you continues to pull at their soul even when distance, silence, or circumstances try to create separation. But before that truth is revealed, you must understand something important. This connection was never meant to be understood through logic alone. Because what exists between you and this person is not built only from words. It is built from feelings. From unspoken moments. From invisible threads that neither of you fully know how to explain. Have you noticed how certain people enter your life and leave no lasting mark? Yet others arrive and somehow change the atmosphere of your entire world? This person belongs to the second group. And whether they have confessed it openly or hidden it behind a smile, their feelings for you run deeper than you realize. Far deeper. Yet there is one thing. One detail. One mysterious aspect of who you are that keeps their thoughts restless long after midnight. And strangely enough, it is not what most people would expect. It is not your appearance. It is not your success. It is not even the things you say. No. It is something much more powerful. Something they feel but struggle to understand. Something that creates both comfort and fear inside them at the same time. Because whenever they think they have figured you out, you reveal another layer. Another depth. Another side of yourself they never saw coming. And this fascinates them. But it also unsettles them. You see, many people wear masks that make them predictable. Many people reveal everything immediately. But your soul carries mysteries. Even when you are being completely authentic. Even when you are trying your best to be understood. There remains something about you that cannot be fully explained. And this person senses it. They feel it every time they think about you. Every time they replay a conversation. Every time they wonder what is truly happening inside your heart. They ask themselves questions they rarely admit aloud. What are they really feeling? What are they not telling me? How deep does their heart actually go? And the more they search for answers, the more captivated they become. Because your spirit refuses to fit into simple definitions. Yet here is the part they would never confess easily. The mystery that attracts them is also the very thing that keeps them awake at night. Because deep down, they are afraid. Not of losing interest in you. Not of growing distant from you. But of never fully reaching you. Of standing close to your heart while still feeling unable to touch its deepest chambers. That fear follows them into quiet evenings. Into moments when the world grows still. Into those late-night hours when distractions disappear and only truth remains. They wonder. If I gave everything, would it be enough? If I opened my heart completely, would they trust me with theirs? If I stepped closer, would they welcome me, or quietly retreat? These questions echo within them far more often than you know. And although their love continues to grow, so does their uncertainty. Because they see strength in you. A rare strength. The kind that has been forged through experiences few people fully understand. You have learned how to carry burdens silently. How to smile while processing emotions no one else can see. How to keep moving forward even when your heart is still healing. And while this inspires them, it also leaves them wondering whether you truly need anyone at all. That thought, more than anything, is what keeps them staring at the ceiling long after the rest of the world has fallen asleep. Because they cannot tell whether the walls around your heart are temporary. Or whether they have become permanent. And soon, A moment is approaching that may force these hidden emotions into the light. A moment when this person will no longer be able to keep certain feelings locked inside. A moment that could change the entire direction of this connection. But before that happens, there is one revelation they have been avoiding even from themselves. And when that realization finally arrives, neither of you will be able to see this connection the same way again. A strange shift is already beginning. Not around you. Not around them. But within the unseen space that connects your two hearts. For a long time, this person believed they could manage their feelings. They convinced themselves they could stay patient. Stay composed. Stay in control. Yet emotions do not always obey the plans of the mind. And lately, something has been changing. The more they try to understand what you mean to them, the less simple the answer becomes. Because what started as admiration has evolved into something deeper. Something heavier. Something that follows them into every quiet moment. And now they find themselves standing before a truth they can no longer avoid. You have become important to them in ways they never intended. Perhaps they did not expect your presence to matter so much. Perhaps they thought you would be another chapter. Another lesson. Another passing connection. But instead, you became a question that refuses to leave their heart. And every day that passes only makes that question louder. Why you? Out of all the people they could have met. Why does their soul keep returning to thoughts of you? Why does your happiness matter so much to them? Why do your struggles affect them more deeply than they admit? Why does the thought of losing this connection create a feeling they cannot explain? These are the questions they wrestle with when nobody is watching. And the answers frighten them more than they would ever confess. Because deep inside, they are beginning to realize that their feelings are no longer casual. No longer temporary. No longer something they can simply set aside. But here is where the story takes an unexpected turn. The very thing that draws them toward you is also the source of their greatest emotional struggle. You see, they believe you are stronger than you appear. Stronger than most people recognize. And while strength is beautiful, it can sometimes create distance. Because strong souls often learn how to survive alone. Strong souls learn how to carry pain without asking for help. Strong souls learn how to keep walking even when nobody understands what they are carrying. This person sees that strength inside you. And part of them admires it endlessly. Yet another part quietly wonders. Will they ever let me stand beside them? That question follows them everywhere. Because they do not fear your independence. They fear your self-sufficiency. They fear becoming someone who cares deeply while never knowing if they are truly needed. And that uncertainty grows louder whenever they sense you pulling inward. Whenever you become quiet. Whenever you choose solitude over explanation. Whenever your heart retreats behind silence. You may not realize it. But there have been moments when they searched your words for hidden meaning. Moments when they reread conversations. Moments when they wondered whether something was wrong. Moments when a delayed response felt far more significant than it should have. Not because they are obsessed. Not because they are weak. But because their heart has become invested. And invested hearts notice everything. Even the smallest changes. Especially the smallest changes. Yet despite all these worries, despite all these sleepless thoughts, there is something beautiful happening beneath the surface. Something neither of you may fully recognize yet. Because every uncertainty they experience is revealing a deeper truth. A truth that grows stronger every day. Their feelings are no longer based on fantasy. They are no longer based on imagination. They are rooted in who you truly are. In your resilience. In your depth. In the way your spirit continues to shine even after difficult seasons. They see parts of you that others overlook. The quiet kindness. The hidden sensitivity. The battles you rarely speak about. The dreams you protect from judgment. The wounds you carry with grace. And every time they discover another layer, their admiration grows. Yet so does the realization that they are standing at a crossroads. Because there comes a point when feelings demand action. A point when silence becomes heavier than honesty. A point when the heart grows tired of hiding behind caution. That point is approaching faster than they expected. And recently, a realization has begun forming inside them. A realization they have resisted for far too long. They are starting to understand that the thing keeping them awake at night is not actually your mystery. Not entirely. It is what that mystery awakens within them. Because you inspire emotions they cannot control. You awaken hopes they thought they had buried. You make them imagine possibilities they once dismissed. And those possibilities feel dangerously real. That is why sleep has become difficult. That is why your name lingers in their thoughts. That is why their heart refuses to find peace. Not because they doubt their feelings, but because they are beginning to understand just how deep those feelings have become. And very soon, a single moment, a single realization, a single unexpected sign, will force them to confront a truth they can no longer hide from. When that happens, everything changes. Because the secret they have been protecting is far bigger than anyone realizes. And once it finally reaches the surface, there will be no turning back. Not every life-changing moment arrives with noise. Sometimes, the most powerful turning points begin in silence. A single thought. A single realization. A single heartbeat that suddenly feels different from all the ones before it. And that is exactly where this story continues. Because while this person has spent so much time questioning you, questioning the connection, questioning their own emotions, they are now being led toward a realization they can no longer escape. The realization is simple. Yet it changes everything. Their greatest fear was never that you would reject them. It was never that circumstances would become difficult. It was never even the uncertainty of the future. No. Their greatest fear has always been what would happen if they revealed the full truth of their heart. Because once certain words are spoken, they cannot be taken back. Once certain emotions are revealed, the connection transforms forever. And whether they admit it or not, that possibility has both excited and terrified them. Imagine carrying a feeling so deep that it becomes part of your everyday existence. A feeling that quietly follows you through ordinary moments. A feeling that turns random songs into reminders. Random places into memories. Random thoughts into emotional journeys. That is where they find themselves now. You have become woven into the fabric of their inner world. Not because they planned it. Not because they forced it. But because their heart slowly made a decision before their mind could understand what was happening. And now, the distance between what they feel and what they express is becoming impossible to maintain. Yet there is another layer to this story. One that has remained hidden until now. Because while they spend sleepless nights thinking about you, there is one particular question that returns again and again. A question that echoes through their mind when everything else grows quiet. Do they know? Do you know the impact you have? Do you know how your presence changes a room? Do you know how your words linger long after conversations end? Do you know how deeply your energy affects people who genuinely care about you? Because the truth is, you often underestimate your influence. You underestimate the light you carry. You underestimate the way your authenticity touches hearts. This person sees it. Even when you don't. Especially when you don't. And that realization creates another kind of sleeplessness. Because they watch you doubt yourself in moments when they can clearly see your worth. They watch you question things that seem obvious to them. They watch you carry burdens that were never meant to be carried alone. And each time they witness it, their heart pulls a little closer. But something unexpected has been happening recently. Something subtle. Something powerful. The connection between you has started creating a mirror. A mirror that reflects truths neither of you can ignore. You challenge them to be more honest, more vulnerable, more courageous. And whether you realize it or not, they are beginning to understand that loving someone is not only about admiration. It is about growth. It is about becoming the version of yourself that fear once prevented. That understanding has changed them. More than they expected. More than they planned. And now they stand before a choice. Continue hiding behind uncertainty. Or step into a truth that could alter everything. Yet before that choice is made, another revelation is approaching. One that explains why their feelings have become so intense. Why their thoughts keep returning to you. Why their heart refuses to settle. Because beneath all the questions, beneath all the fears, beneath all the sleepless nights, there is a deeper secret. A secret they have barely allowed themselves to acknowledge. You are no longer just someone they care about. You have become part of the future they quietly imagine. Part of the dreams they rarely speak aloud. Part of the possibilities that make them smile for no reason and worry for reasons they cannot explain. That is why this feels so significant. That is why every interaction carries meaning. That is why even small moments seem larger than they should. Because somewhere along the way, their hearts stopped asking whether they loved you. And started asking something far more serious. What happens if I lose the chance to tell them? That question changes everything. Because once a heart begins asking that question, silence becomes difficult. Waiting becomes difficult. Pretending becomes difficult. And right now, that pressure is building. Growing stronger. Moving closer to the surface with every passing day. But what they are about to discover next will shake them even more than their own feelings. Because a truth is waiting. A truth about you. A truth about this connection. A truth that will make them realize their sleepless nights were never only about fear. They were also preparing them for something neither of you expected. And when that realization finally arrives, the walls around their heart may not survive it. The heart has a way of preparing us for truths before the mind is ready to accept them. That is why certain feelings arrive long before understanding. That is why some connections feel significant even when there is no logical explanation. And that is why this person has been carrying a sense that something important is unfolding between you. Even before they could put it into words. Because what is happening now is bigger than attraction. Bigger than curiosity. Bigger than the ordinary emotions that come and go with time. Something deeper is awakening. And whether they acknowledge it openly or not, they can feel it. It appears in unexpected moments. A sudden thought of you during a busy day. A memory that surfaces without warning. A feeling that your name carries a weight unlike any other. At first, they tried to dismiss it. They told themselves they were overthinking. They told themselves they needed more clarity. More certainty. More proof. But the harder they tried to rationalize everything, the more undeniable their emotions became. Because the soul recognizes certain connections long before the mind catches up. And now they find themselves standing before a realization that changes the entire story. The thing that keeps them awake at night is no longer a question about you. It is becoming a question about themselves. Because you have unknowingly revealed something to them. Something they had hidden for a very long time. A vulnerability. A hope. A longing they thought they had outgrown. You see, most people learn to protect themselves after disappointment. They learn to lower expectations. They learn to keep parts of their heart locked away. Not because they lack love, but because they fear what love can ask of them. This person is no different. They built walls they believed were necessary. Walls made from caution. Walls made from old lessons. Walls made from promises to themselves that they would never care too deeply again. Yet somehow, without trying, without forcing anything, you walked straight to the gates of those walls. And now they are discovering something unsettling. The walls no longer feel as strong as they once did. The defenses that protected them for so long are beginning to crack. And that realization is both beautiful and terrifying. Because opening your heart sounds simple. Until you are actually faced with doing it. Until you realize that genuine connection requires risk. Requires trust. Requires surrender. And this person is beginning to understand that they cannot move forward while holding on to fear. But there is another reason sleep has become difficult. Another truth they rarely admit. It is not only thoughts of you that keep them awake. It is the future. The future they secretly imagine whenever they allow their heart complete honesty. A future where conversations become deeper. A future where distance disappears. A future where uncertainty gives way to clarity. A future where they no longer have to wonder how you feel. And every time that vision appears, their heart feels both excitement and vulnerability. Because hopes are powerful things. Once hope enters the room, nothing remains the same. Hope asks difficult questions. Hope challenges old fears. Hope refuses to stay quiet. And lately, hope has been speaking very loudly inside them. Yet the most surprising part has nothing to do with their feelings. It has everything to do with yours. Because there have been moments when they sensed something. Something subtle. Something easy to overlook. A glance. A word. An energy. A feeling they could not quite explain. Moments that made them wonder. Could there be more here than I realize? That question has lingered in their heart. Not as certainty. Not as assumption. But as possibility. And possibility can be incredibly powerful. Because once possibility exists, the imagination begins building bridges toward the future. The heart begins envisioning outcomes it once considered impossible. And suddenly, the person who once tried to suppress their emotions finds themselves dreaming instead. Dreaming of conversations not yet had. Dreaming of truths not yet spoken. Dreaming of moments that have not yet arrived. But destiny has a curious way of working. It rarely reveals the entire path at once. Instead, it reveals one piece at a time. One lesson. One realization. One courageous step. And right now, another piece is preparing to emerge. A revelation so personal that it will force this person to stop running from what they feel. Because very soon, they will understand that the thing they admire most about you is also the reason this connection feels impossible to forget. The answer has been hiding in plain sight all along. And when they finally see it clearly, the choice they have been avoiding for so long will be standing directly in front of them. A choice that could transform everything. A choice between silence and truth. And once that moment arrives, the next chapter of this story can no longer be postponed. There comes a moment in every meaningful connection when silence reaches its limit. A moment when the heart grows tired of speaking only to itself. A moment when hidden emotions become too powerful to remain hidden. That moment is drawing closer now. Closer than either of you realize. Because after all the questioning, after all the uncertainty, after all the sleepless nights spent wondering what this connection truly means, this person is beginning to see something with remarkable clarity. Something that has been right in front of them from the very beginning. The quality they admire most about you is not perfection. It is not achievement. It is not the image you show the world. It is your heart. The real one. The one that continues to care despite disappointment. The one that continues to believe despite setbacks. The one that continues to offer light even after walking through shadows. They have noticed it. More than you know. Perhaps there were moments when you thought nobody understood what you were carrying. Moments when you felt unseen. Moments when you questioned whether anyone truly recognized your depth. Yet somehow, this person noticed. Not every detail. Not every struggle. But enough to understand that there is something rare about your spirit. Because many people become harder after difficult experiences. Many people become colder. More guarded. More disconnected. Yet you have continued moving forward with a softness that refuses to disappear completely. And that softness has affected them in ways they never expected. It has challenged their assumptions. It has healed parts of them they thought would remain untouched. It has reminded them that genuine connection still exists. And that realization is exactly why they can no longer pretend their feelings are ordinary. But here is where the story becomes even more meaningful. The sleepless nights were never only about what they feared. They were also about what they hoped for. Because hidden beneath every worry, beneath every question, beneath every moment of uncertainty, there has been a quiet dream. A dream they rarely allow themselves to fully imagine. A dream where honesty replaces guessing. Where clarity replaces confusion. Where two hearts stop wondering and start understanding. For so long they have stood at the edge of that possibility. Close enough to see it. Too cautious to reach for it. Yet something inside them is changing now. The hesitation is weakening. The fear is losing its grip. And courage is beginning to grow. Not loud courage. Not reckless courage. But the kind that starts as a whisper. The kind that quietly says, what if this connection deserves a chance? What if the truth is worth the risk? What if the future is waiting on a single act of honesty? Those questions have become impossible for them to ignore. And the more they listen, the more they realize something profound. The thing that kept them awake at night was never your mystery alone. It was the possibility of something beautiful. The possibility of a connection that could become far more significant than either of you expected. The possibility of being understood. Seen. Valued. Chosen. The possibility that what they feel is not happening by accident. And once a heart begins believing in possibility, everything changes. Because fear loses some of its power. Doubt loses some of its authority. And hope begins taking its rightful place. Now, whether this person speaks tomorrow, next week, or at a moment neither of you can predict, one truth remains. Their heart is no longer where it once was. It has traveled too far. Felt too much. Learned too much. And cared too deeply. The journey that began with curiosity has become something far more meaningful. Something that continues to grow in quiet ways. Something that refuses to disappear. Something that keeps guiding their thoughts back to you. So if you have been wondering why this connection feels different, why certain emotions seem stronger than logic can explain, why a certain energy continues returning to your awareness, perhaps it is because some stories are not meant to be rushed. Some truths unfold one revelation at a time. And some hearts need a little longer to gather the courage required to speak what they have known all along. For now, the message is simple. You are more deeply appreciated than you realize. More deeply thought about than you know. And somewhere, in the quiet moments between day and night, a heart continues moving closer to its truth. A truth that began with admiration, grew through uncertainty, and is now approaching a moment of undeniable clarity. The rest of the story has not been written yet. But one thing is certain. The chapter ahead will not look like the chapter behind. Because once the heart awakens to what it truly feels, it can never return to sleep. A heart that has awakened cannot pretend forever. Eventually, what lives in silence begins searching for a voice. And that is where this story reaches its most important turning point. Because everything that has happened so far, the questions, the longing, the sleepless nights, the quiet hopes, the hidden fears, none of it was leading toward confusion. It was leading toward clarity. The kind of clarity that arrives slowly, then all at once. Like the first light of dawn after a very long night. This person is standing closer to that dawn than ever before. Not because all uncertainty has disappeared. Not because every answer has been revealed. But because they are finally understanding something that changes the way they see this connection. Love is not certainty. Love is courage. It is choosing to move forward even when every outcome cannot be guaranteed. It is choosing honesty when silence feels safer. It is choosing vulnerability when fear suggests retreat. And for a long time, fear was the louder voice. Fear told them to wait, to analyze, to hesitate, to protect themselves. But another voice has been growing stronger. A quieter voice. A wiser voice. A voice that speaks from the deepest part of the soul. And that voice keeps repeating the same message. You cannot discover what is possible by hiding from it. Those words have followed them recently. Into their thoughts. Into their reflections. Into moments when they least expected them. Because deep inside, they already know something. Something they have spent months trying to define. Months trying to measure. Months trying to understand. Yet the answer was never complicated. The answer was always you. Not because you are perfect. Not because you have every answer. But because your presence makes their heart feel something real. And in a world full of distractions, real feelings are impossible to ignore. That realization has become their greatest lesson. Yet there is one final truth that heaven wants you to understand today. Something that may explain why this message found its way to you. The person who cares about you so deeply is not the only one being transformed. You are changing too. Perhaps in ways you have not fully recognized. Because meaningful connections leave fingerprints on the soul. They teach us. Stretch us. Reveal us to ourselves. They uncover strengths we never knew existed. And sometimes, they remind us that our hearts are capable of receiving far more love than we once believed. This connection has already changed both of you. Whether every word has been spoken or not. Whether every feeling has been revealed or not. The transformation has already begun. And that is why the future feels different now. Because the next chapter is no longer being written from fear. It is being written from awareness. Awareness of what matters. Awareness of what is worth protecting. Awareness of what is worth risking. The road ahead may still contain surprises. Unexpected conversations. Unexpected realizations. Unexpected moments that seem ordinary at first but later become unforgettable. But do not overlook the beauty of where things stand today. A heart has awakened. A truth has emerged. And a connection has survived every question that once threatened to weaken it. That is not something to fear. That is something to honor. So tonight, if you find yourself wondering about the future, if you find yourself questioning whether your presence truly matters, if you find yourself doubting the impact you have on the people who care about you, remember this. The deepest connections are rarely built in a single moment. They are built through countless unseen moments. Through patience. Through growth. Through understanding. Through courage. And somewhere beyond the worries, beyond the waiting, beyond the uncertainty, something beautiful is still unfolding. Not because destiny demands it. Not because the future is already written. But because hearts that choose honesty create possibilities that fear never could. And perhaps that is the greatest revelation of all. The thing that kept this person awake at night was not merely love. It was the realization that some people enter your life and change the way you see everything. And once that happens, the world never quite looks the same again. End of Part 6. Complete story.